Hello, CEOs. Welcome to tonight's live with Mrs. Cynthia Williams-Bey. I am so excited to have been a part of the RVA Mic Share this week and have the opportunity to get to know Cynthia better and to listen to all of these absolutely incredible stories that have been shared across so many different social media accounts this week. It has been just an incredible community of women coming together to support each other, white and Black women together, supporting each other, listening to each other, cheering each other on. It's been amazing. Phew, excuse me. As soon as I see Cynthia pop on, I will be able to bring her on live with me. And hopefully that will all work correctly the way that we think it will. But if anyone is joining me live right now and you have been following along, I would love to know what questions you might have for Cynthia or about the RVA Mic Share, anything that has been coming up for you as you have been listening to. Okay. Hopefully you all can still hear and see me just fine. And as soon as I see Cynthia pop on, I'll be able to bring her on. I'd love to hear from anybody if you had a chance to listen to some of Cynthia's amazing videos that she has been sharing. And Cynthia, I see you're on. You should have an option there to request to join me live so that we can get the party started. Hello. Okay, go with Mrs. Williams-Bey.
I think we did it.
We did it. We figured out the technology.
Yes. Awesome.
Well,
okay.
Cynthia, I just want to say thank you so much for sharing so openly and honestly in these videos that you made to share with us. When we were preparing for this, I had no idea how just open and vulnerable and raw this would be, and it has just been so amazing to hear your story and to hear your perspective and to have what feels like really like tangible things to take away that we can do to help. So I just want to thank you so much for the effort you put into this.
Thank you. And thank you, for being vulnerable and trusting, because, I know it can be very, I guess, not really fearful, but just not knowing, handing like your life work, because it takes a lot to build a platform and have people that trust you. So just you having the courage to release the platform to me, and just thanking all of your, followers for even, trusting you and allowing me to speak into them and give them all the tips. Like, I really appreciate it.
I love that. Well, I wanted to, let me just introduce you for anyone who has not been following along the last couple of days for the RVA Mic Share. Cynthia, Mrs. Williams-Bey, has been taking over all of my social media platforms to share her story as an entrepreneur, as a Black woman, as a mother, and give us some insight into how we can support Black women. And I was so excited to get to know you, and because I talk primarily to entrepreneurs and you are a serial entrepreneur yourself, I wanted to ask you some more questions around the intersection of business and life and everything, because I think this is an area when women have economic power, and as entrepreneurs, we do have economic power. We are spending a lot of money. We are hiring people. We are investing into different things. I want to know more about how we can support Black women and Black women entrepreneurs. So I'd love for you to share quickly a little bit about, and again, your story about how you started your first business and why you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so look, I had to get my notepad to get me to keep me focused. And so, as most of you guys know, you pretty much have been following along, but my first business is actually Heaven Send Childcare. And I actually started that business in 2005. I am a native New Yorker. I come from Brooklyn, New York. So, I lost my mom to cancer back in 1999. and I am my mom's baby. So I went through a really hard time just trying to find validation, trying to fill the voids of not having my mom. And, you know, my dad was in my life, but I didn't have that relationship, that bond.
Mm-hmm.
So I found myself here in Virginia. And I'm not really going to get into that story because that's a whole nother, we would have to have the tea for that conversation. But I ended up, you know, here in Virginia, like I literally left everything. I left everything. I left everyone. And I came down to Virginia, and I didn't really have a support system or anything like that. And I found myself as a single mother. I was a single mother. And at that time, I was working at Bank of America in a call center. And we all know with corporate America, especially when you work in the call centers, there's no 9 to 5. You know, you can get there as early as 6 a.m. Some is overnight, but you don't get off at 6 o'clock. And with me just starting out, you know, I didn't have a set schedule, and sometimes I needed to work on the weekend also. But, you know, I found myself as a single mother. I was pregnant, and I was having a hard time, you know, throughout my pregnancy. It was my first child, and I was having complications, which led me to have to leave work sometimes. Like, I really thought I was going to lose my son, because I was like, I would break out and bleeding, like heavy bleeding,
Oh my gosh.
you know, and I would have to like go to the hospital, and then they'd be like, he's okay. So, you know, wrap it up now, you know, I've had my son. And once I had my son, you know, he was having complications, you know, he was having complications. And I was also having a hard time finding affordable childcare. I could not find anyone that would staying open past 6 o'clock or on the weekends. Every center I called, the rates were over $300. It was $300 and greater at that time. And as a single mother, you know, working on a salary from Bank of America, I couldn't afford that. So I got a referral for a woman that was watching children in the home.
Mm-hmm.
But the issue was every time I went, you know, she was affordable, but every time I went, it was always something. You know, hello guys, as you're joining in. So it's like, you know, one day I would pick up my son and the husband would be smoking. Then the next day I would pick up my son, he would be fully clothed in his like his snowsuit, in the car seat, sweating hot, waiting for me to get there, because it was just like, it's 6 o'clock, you need to be there to get your child. So, you know, some days I would run late, and I literally had to pay like $1 an hour. $1 a minute, you know, for him. So it was just like, oh my God. And then the last straw, my son wind up in the hospital with, look, exactly. She said she could relate. Yes, you could relate. So my son ended up in a hospital with RSV, you know, respiratory, and he was in there for like at least a week. And I ended up on a final warning because the bank didn't care at that time. They did. Oh, and the preschool van, Lord.
Oh my gosh.
So, you know, I ended up on a final warning at that time. And it was just like, I just remember sitting at my cubicle and really just saying, you know, I really didn't have a great relationship with God. Like, you know, I heard of him and things like that, but it wasn't like I was a church goer. I didn't grow up in church or anything, but I just heard about him. And I was just like, okay, God, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I really need you right now. And as I sat there in my cubicle at Bank of America, I heard the words heaven sent. And all of a sudden, I started having childhood memories of my mom. See, my mom was a high school dropout, and it was 6 of us. I was the youngest. So she just was a stay-at-home body. But what she did do, non-traditionally, she was the neighborhood babysitter. So there were always children at my home. She always watched after the children of all the moms in the neighborhood that actually went to work. So that came back to my mind, and I was just like, okay, God, but I don't like people, children like that. Like, what are you talking about?
Don't really
You
like
know?
other people's kids. I like my kid, but I don't know about other people's.
I was just like, I don't know about this guy. I don't know about this. I have no clue about childcare and no business or anything like that. But, you know, that's what he gave me. And, you know, I mean, I think it was like after that, I just started talking to my coworkers and asking them about some of the challenges they were facing with childcare. They gave me feedback. And literally in one shift, I had a full business plan written out. And now, mind you, I had never been to school for anything related to business or childcare, but when I left, it was all written out as far as who was my client, what my hours were going to be, what my rates were going to be. It was all God. Like it was, I don't know where it came from, but you know, but it was just like after that, you know, I spoke to the manager and so quite surprisingly, they let me, you know, put up a flyer in the break room, which that's unheard of.
Yeah.
And I had an open house and I was in a one bedroom apartment. So I want to speak to all the entrepreneurs on here that God, you listen, when you have an assignment and God gives something to you, do not be concerned about what you have because he will take whatever little you have and multiply that. And I had a one bedroom apartment and I turned my entire living room into like a nursery, my patio into like I went to what was it, Once Upon a Child, and I got like the little waddle pool and like the little balls and stuff. It was just so cool. And I had an open house. And by the end of that open house, I had my first 5 children. I had my first 5 children.
Wow.
One was my best friend's son because she was the first person to actually trust me. I had made a friend when I came to Virginia. She trusted me with her son, you know, but my first 5 clients were actually all Bank of America employees.
That is
They were all,
incredible. That is an incredible
yes.
story. And what I love about, because I have the business, like that, the business stuff is my background. And everything that you did that came so like organically to you, and that it was very much like divine breadcrumbs, like just leading through this, is what I coach people to go do. But you knew to go do it, and going and talking to those people, figuring out who you were going to help, solving a real problem. That is how we build incredible businesses. And now, so fast forward to now, that was 15 years ago.
Yes.
What does your business look like now?
So now I'm not in a one bedroom anymore. Yes. You know, I actually have a facility now. And I have, I'm licensed for 60 children at a time. Now, the one thing I left out is in the house, when I was in an apartment, I was doing 24 hours.
Oh, Lord.
And then, I was doing 24-hour care. And then once I moved into a facility, I started operating from 6 a.m. until 12 midnight. So my center stays open until 12 midnight. So I'm able to have 60 children per shift. So just 60 at a time. So with me having the multiple shifts, I'm able to maximize that and have more than, 60 children.
That is incredible. That is just incredible that you've been able to do this. So you have truly made a career out of serving other hardworking families, parents who don't work just the normal 9 to 5, who need that flexible schedule. That's incredible. That's incredible what you've built. What has been the hardest part about being an entrepreneur and going from the 1-bedroom apartment to now having this full facility that sees, 60 kids a shift?
Yes. I would definitely say, and this was something that kind of relates to kind of why we're advocating and using our voices now, as a entrepreneur, but as a woman entrepreneur, and then a woman, the African American woman entrepreneur, it was very hard because when I transferred from the house to a center, I didn't have capital. So
Yeah.
everything was essentially out of pocket. You know, by that time I had married and I had my husband, but like we literally went through like hell. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
from, you know, having to deal with evictions to having our vehicles repossessed, like literally right in front of the daycare door, you know, because we didn't have capital. It was hard getting approved for a loan. And then, you know, I even experienced discrimination, you know, going into the bank and trying to open a business bank account. So it's like, okay, I'm trying to do things the right way. This is the order that it should be done. But it's like every time I went into the bank, they questioned my checks, like, you know,
Wow.
I went in one time and I had deposits from my parents that I bring in every week. And then they just decided they wanted to put like a 7-day hold on my deposits. I went through a lot. It was a lot. So, you know, that was the hardest part because I think cash flow is very important. And when you don't
Yeah.
have that, it's harder. So I definitely went through my circumstances with not being able to make payroll. Like I had to figure it out, you know, and then I didn't really have like a mentor. Everyone, even when I did go back to school, you know, and got my degree in early childhood development before I went to the actual center. But it was like once I got there, I was still afraid, you know, to operate in my calling because I was told like, you know, you can't do it like this. This is not how it's done. You know, so I was feeling inadequate and I was bringing other people in to run the business for me, but you know, they weren't called to do it. So it wasn't prospering as fast as it should have, like when I was in a home, you
Yeah.
know, but it was very hard just not having that. So I had to figure things out on my own. You know, it was nobody that I was able to call and say, hey, can you mentor me or anything like that. Like there really was no childcare mentors, you know, especially within the African American ones. No
Yep.
one was sharing resources or anything like that. So it was really, really hard, really hard.
Yeah. The lack of access to capital is such a problem, um, for women, but especially for Black women, and the lack of
Yeah.
financial resources, because this is something that you really brought to light in one of the videos that you shared. Is a lot of white women are able to get support starting their business. They might not be getting like venture capital or anything. Most like
Yeah.
I think the stats are like women get something like only 4% of venture capital. We don't get much, period. But
Yeah.
when it comes to starting up, um, if you have family funding you or friends who can fund you, that gives you a leg up. If you have a good credit limit and, you know, a credit card you can use to get started, that gives you a leg up. But if you're even having a hard time just getting the bank to deposit your checks, that's a
Yeah.
whole nother level of challenge and hurdle to get through. I can't even imagine. But this is why we're having these conversations, to show that like this is systemic, y'all. This is not just a morality issue. It is a systemic built into the foundation of our society that's holding women back, Black women back, Black families back. This is why I think somebody shared recently in this whole Share the Mic that Black families have so little generational wealth right now compared to white families. It's almost like
Mm-hmm.
white families have 10 times more wealth per family compared to Black families. And this is some of the reasons why, because the ways that we build wealth have been
Yeah.
not available. Getting
Yeah.
financing to start businesses, getting financing to get homes, getting approved for credit, things that can go out and help really build your own economy have been denied.
Yeah.
That is not what we learned in economics class, y'all. That
Yeah.
they don't
I
talk
mean,
about. This has not been talked about. So I feel like my eyes have been opened so much
yeah.
to the
Yeah.
challenges that you have faced as an entrepreneur from you sharing your story. And so I thank you so much for really going there and telling us about these challenges.
Yeah, you know, and I know, you know, and it's just quite funny because I know that there were other women that was going through or had experienced what I went through, but they were silent,
Mm-hmm.
you know, about it. feeling ashamed, but I really feel that we go through stuff so we're able to bring light to it and help pull someone else out. So
Yeah.
there was a time where I used to be afraid of my testimony, and I was very shameful. I was ridden with guilt, because I was like, oh my God, because my the things that I went through was very public. That's the other thing, that when you're an entrepreneur, nothing is private. So you're in the public eye. And I went through all that publicly, and I used to be afraid to share my testimony, but it's just like, no, because that's what has made me stronger, and it has equipped me, and I want to be able to speak so I can encourage someone else that may be going through it, so they'll understand how to get out. Because, growing up Black, we don't have those conversations about wealth, about life insurance. Oh, don't talk about life insurance, because we don't want to talk about dying. So for me, my mom, when she passed away before my 21st birthday.
Wow.
And my siblings, we're just kind of taught that, we're with mom, we go to school if we choose to, we have kids, and we just keep the cycle going. So when my mom passed away, it was just me and my brother. Even though he was older than me, my brother was very sickly. So, it was kind of like I had to help and assist, and it was just like such a burden, but there was no type of insurance or anything. And my siblings couldn't even help me because they had their own families to take care of, and they were struggling, So it was kind of like I had to figure out life on my own. And me and my dad, our relationship wasn't that great. So I couldn't really call on him for money, but we're not taught about savings and stuff like that. It's like once you get approved for a credit card, for us in my house, you got approved for a credit card. It was like hitting the lottery, and you go, you max it out, and you say you're going to pay it. But then it's like, wait a minute, I don't have a job. Wait a minute, So, I mean, even to the point of having to go through poverty, to the fact that, you have to, put the light bills and the phone bills in your little sister's name. Like, this is stuff that happens in a Black family. And now I'm older, I had that situation. One of my sisters was on hard times, and my mom was like, yes, you can go ahead and use her name to get your lights on or whatever. And then I'm like, adult, and I'm trying to get my lights on or something, or a telephone bill, and they're like, wait a minute, you have this debt. And I'm like, what debt? And I'm like,
Oh.
I was only like 13 or 14. How did y'all let that happen? But this is the things that happen, in the Black community. And a lot of the organizations, when they come to the Black community, they know it's not supposed to happen, but all they care about is money and their numbers. So they're letting things like this happen, so.
Yeah.
So that affects your credit when you're trying to, start a business. You have all that debt and all that damage, It's not taught. It's not taught.
Oh my goodness. Well, that's why I love hearing that now your next stage of your entrepreneurial journey is now mentoring other entrepreneurs who are running childcare centers. Can you tell us a little bit about like how you decided to step into that?
Yeah, so that's something I'm doing now. I mean, I've always had individuals pull on me and ask me questions. And then I was like, well, I think I need to do this, So that's what I'm working on now. I have some things in the works. So I need everybody to just stay tuned for the launch of the website. That'll be launched mid-July. And I have some exciting things that I'm going to be doing that's actually going to be able to help those that are looking to start daycares, or they need assistance, with their current daycare.
I love that, because this is such a important part of what is going on in our society, because in the US, we have so little help for working families. Mm-hmm. And the work that you're doing, having this daycare that's open, very flexible and accessible for all of these families, that is really hard to find. It is so hard to find. I remember there was a point with my 3 kids where I was paying like the equivalent of a mortgage every month for daycare. And we had to pick them up by 4 o'clock. There
Oh,
was,
wow.
you know, it just makes it hard to where parents are like, well, is it even worth it? And I couldn't imagine being a single parent and having to juggle the outrageous cost and challenge of finding great daycare
Yeah.
these days. And right now, have you all been open this whole time through COVID? Because everybody's had all their kids home. I know my kids have been home this whole time.
Yeah. So
And it's
let
been
me tell
wild.
you, one thing about, me and my team, I mean, even before COVID happened, my staff used to think they was like, Miss Cynthia is crazy, but in a good way. They're like, everybody knows who to go to when they're in a crisis or they need some type of prayer. The staff come to me, but I got them all in a routine where we pray together, like every morning, like even the children. So when we're praying for the center, we're praying for their parents, we're praying for the city, so it's really been a blessing that we've been able to stay open, because about 95% of my clientele, they are single mothers, and they cannot afford to not work. So for them, us being open has been a blessing, because a lot of them are essential workers. I have a lot of RNs. I have some parents that actually work for social services, retail, just various positions. So when everyone else was just kind of made to stay home, like they were having the letters from their jobs showing they were essential, so they still need to come. But it's like, even with that, there's still parents that I couldn't serve. There were still some of my parents that I had to turn away because they put us on restriction in regards to amount of children we were able to have,
Wow.
which affected the business as well, because now you have 20 children less on your roster, so yeah.
Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine, but how awesome that you have been able to serve them and help those families during this time, especially being single moms and essential workers. It's been crazy to see like what's going on right now with this whole stay-at-home order, and talking about school next year and talking about how it's impacting families. But I wish there were more people like you who are able to help out all these working families. That's for sure, because it's not been
Yeah.
easy with everybody at home.
Yeah, it hasn't. I know it hasn't been easy, and I try to figure out something good out of everything that happens, because that's God's word, that everything works
Yeah.
for the good of those, right? So I try to figure out, and ever since I was a child, I've always looked on the brighter side of things. So I try to figure out a way, like, to just encourage individuals, because for some, it might be this happening, kind of like with me. I was a single mother and I was dealing with the pandemic, a single motherhood. And, I was in corporate America, and you cannot tell me that I was not going to make corporate CEO at Bank of America. Like, I had my eyes on it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to work myself up the ladder and I'm going to be a CEO exec, but that was not God's plan for me. So, I just encourage everyone, that's kind of in this transitional state, to just really go into prayer and ask God, do you want me to go back to this, or do you have something else for me? And you'd be surprised. Like, so I'm telling you, it's going to be so many family businesses that's going to birth out of this, because even being home with my children, I was able to see a lot of their gifts come out. Like, one of my daughters, she's like an awesome baker. And then the other one, like, she's this awesome photographer. Like, she did a photo shoot for me, and I'm just like, wait a minute. Like, I had no idea that they had all that in them, So there's a lot of childcare providers that's looking at this now that don't know they're childcare providers, but they're the next childcare providers that'll be able to open their homes up and love on someone's child, and also be able to take care of their children as well.
Absolutely. I've always believed that whenever there's a downturn, there's always so much opportunity on the other side of that. They say that there's more millionaires made during recessions than any other time. And it's because there's opportunity. And then there's people like you who just see the challenges and are like, how can I solve this? And you make a business out of it. That's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, because I tell you, once you pick up the burden of the people, then you will get insight and wisdom as you pick up the burden of the people. See, most people get it wrong because they're looking at it from a money aspect, like where's the money at? But if you actually pick up the needs and the hearts of the people, then you will know what they need and what's missing. And as you solve that solution, the money will come. But it has to be a hard thing. I feel that's why I was given Heaven Sent, because, as I was sitting there at that cubicle, I understood I had a need, but my heart started breaking because I was like, God, I cannot be the only one that's experiencing this. Like, what are all these mothers doing? So as you focus on that, then everything else will add on and it will fall into place.
I love that. I so appreciate your time and energy this week. I want to celebrate how much awesome work you are doing in the community between your businesses and you have a nonprofit too.
Yes.
What is your nonprofit?
Yes. So my nonprofit is Heaven Sent Foundation. And the Heaven Sent Foundation, we actually just became a 501c3, but I've been doing the work for years. I've been doing the work for years, and it actually was inspired by one of my sisters when I first got into my building. When I first got into my commercial building, when I came from the home to the building, her husband was actually supposed to meet with me, and he was supposed to help me with some things. And then I got a call, like, in the middle of the night that he had seizure and he had passed away. And it was just like so heartbreaking, it was so heartbreaking because, there was no type of insurance. Again, just going back to the generational thing, not understanding, us not being taught the importance of having insurance and stuff. But it was just like he was, in his 30s. And, from there, I actually gave her a scholarship because I did not want her worrying about the burden of having to bury her husband, take care of her children, because she was, a young mom. They were young. We're young in your 30s, so it was like from there, I just kept running into situations with single mothers ending up either where they, were married and then all of a sudden they're going through this crazy divorce, so I started providing assistance for them where I would give them a scholarship to come to the daycare for free. So that's what the Heaven Sent Foundation is about, helping with that. And then every Friday, we actually feed the children in the community. We give away about 300 meals. We prepare 300 meals for that. Yes, we do that as well.
That is incredible.
because with schools being closed, you have some of the schools that was giving out the food, but not everybody has a car. So my daycare center, we're actually in walking distance to a lot of the apartment complexes and things like that. So a lot of the parents are able to come and get food, give it out every Friday, and it holds the children over where they're able to have, a lunch, and they have lunch and snacks for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And we do it every Friday.
That is something that I have been so impressed by with this RVA Mic Share, is how many Black women have started not only their own business, but also like the secondary arm of having a nonprofit alongside of it so that they can continue to like take care of their communities. And it is so incredible and so powerful. And also, like, how do we not hear about these more? And I'm going to be totally into amplifying these with you, because this is important work. This is how we change the trajectory of communities, is supporting you and being able to do this work that you're called to do. That's amazing. Yeah,
it would be great, because that's another thing that, you know, being a nonprofit and being African American, it's like we have to do a lot of the legwork. We don't
Yeah.
get a lot of support financially, so we have to do a lot of the legwork. And once we do the legwork, then it's like, okay, maybe somebody will sponsor us or somebody will help out, you know. So I have one, so with the daycare, we actually do the USDA food program. So they provide some support, but, you know, it's still more support that's needed because there's so much more that needs to be done, you know. And that brings me to my book, you know.
Yes. I'm waiting on my copy. I ordered some for my kids and for my nieces and nephew.
Yes, this is my first book. God put this on my heart because, again, with everything that's been going on, you know, and it's just quite funny because we were already dealing with the crisis with a lot of our men, you know, getting murdered by the police and things like that. So for my husband, it's really been weighing on him, you know, and I wanted to do something to honor him and encourage him, but also show him that he's needed and he has to keep pushing for his dreams and his things because other little black boys and just boys in general need him. So this book is dedicated to my husband. This is my dreamy Dre.
So sweet.
You know, yes. And the proceeds from the book actually go towards my nonprofit. So anyone that purchased a copy, all the proceeds, the profits go directly back to the Heaven Sent Foundation.
Beautiful. Well, everyone go get yourself a copy of the book. You got kids, you got grandkids, you got nieces, you got nephews, baby showers coming up. Let's support these amazing Black women authors and foundations. So awesome. So incredible. Well, Cynthia, thank you so much for all that you've done. We will definitely continue to be in touch and hopefully we'll get together in real life. And
yes, we have to. We definitely
a coffee
have
date
to.
or something once things get more opened up around here. But it has just been such an honor to amplify your voice and your message and your mission. And thank you. Just thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone. Thank you to your audience. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Well, I hope everyone has a great evening. I hope you all have a wonderful 4th of July holiday coming up here, spending time with your family, your friends, your loved ones. If you didn't get a chance to listen through all of Cynthia's amazing videos, they are raw and real and directly from the heart. And I highly recommend listening to them. I truly just felt like we were sitting, you know, on a sofa together, you just telling everything that you really want your white sisters to hear for how we can support you. And it really resonated so deeply with me. And I'm just amazed at how much I have learned and how much insight I have gained for how I can support this community even more. So I thank you. I thank you. I thank everyone in the RVA Mike Share group. It's been amazing.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much.
All right. Have a great night. Bye, everyone.
You too. Bye.